This is the Italian Citizenship Podcast, hosted by Marco Permunian and Rafael Di Furia. Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Italian Citizenship Podcast, presented by ItalianCitizenshipassistance.com. Of course, we are back here again with Italian attorney Marco Permunian. How you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And today, we wanted to do an episode a little bit different than what we normally do, and a bit more of an opinion piece. Maybe last year or in the past sometime, we've done an episode on applying in the United States or in your home country versus making your petition for Italian citizenship by descent in Italy. And so we wanted to talk about in this episode maybe what might be better for a person, because there's always that question that everybody has. Is it better if I go to Italy? Is it better if I do it in the States, my home country, whatever? And so today, Marco, I think maybe the first question that we should start out with is, what would be the type of situation that a person might find themselves in that it might be the best idea if they are wanting to apply in the United States, or if they rather should make their petition in the United States?
Well, the first aspect to consider, I believe, is whether you intend to relocate to Italy now or in the foreseeable future. Because if you do not intend to relocate to Italy, at least for now, maybe you have that desire for the future, but for now, you have your job in the U.S., you are settled in the U.S., and you do not intend to relocate to Italy immediately or in the foreseeable future. In that case, that's probably the first thing that I would advise people to look at, what your goal is in the short term. Because if it's not to relocate to Italy, maybe it's okay to do the process in the U.S. We all know it takes time to apply in the U.S. Through an Italian consulate in the U.S. because there are long waiting times for an appointment, whereas the process in Italy can be quicker. Now, of course, there could be people that are actually interested in staying in the U.S. but want to get citizenship as quickly as possible for whatever reason. In that case, it could make sense to do the process in Italy as well. But ultimately, what I think is what counts is how quickly you need citizenship. And if you need citizenship very quickly, I would probably advise to consider to do the process in Italy, which is definitely more expensive, and it will require more effort because you actually have to relocate to Italy for some time. But if you're not in a rush, then you can choose the easier route that maybe does not require any relocation to Italy, and you just go through the consulate and wait for the process to take place. You're going to have to be patient, but it's a good option if you don't want to make that effort to having to travel to Italy now.
And so I think this brings up an interesting point, though. Like you mentioned about if somebody is planning to relocate to Italy, but what if they're, say, planning to relocate somewhere else in the EU, Germany, Spain, Netherlands, wherever it may be, and maybe it's for a job? Is there any way to expedite the process if you are applying in the United States or outside of Italy? Or is it really that whatever the time is that it takes to apply, it takes as long as it has to?
So first of all, if you're relocating in another European country for work, for example, you may be in possession of a work permit because maybe your employer wants you to move right away without having to wait for or having to rely on the Italian citizenship to employ you. And maybe your employer knows that you will become an Italian citizen, but they're ready to hire you anyway. And for now, they're okay with you applying for a work visa. And if that's the case, you may consider to file an application for Italian citizenship through the local Italian consulate in the European country where you're gonna relocate, France or Germany or Spain. And that's because those consulates tend to be quicker in processing applications or even to get an appointment to file the application in comparison to Italian Consulate in the US. And that's because, of course, there is a very, like a much lower percentage of people of Italian descent in Europe than in the US. So that may be a quick option to consider, but only if you have a visa already that allows you to relocate in that country for work or for other purposes like study or whatever the reason may be. But you have to have a visa for that country and a long-term visa that because only if you have a long-term visa, the consulate in that specific European country will allow you to file the application for citizenship there. Otherwise, the remaining options are to go through the Italian consulate in the US and wait for your turn, or to decide to apply in Italy anyway and maybe just try to make the process as quick as possible, meaning collecting the documents needed to support your citizenship application. That, of course, depends on your specific case, because if your documents are straightforward, they require no amendments whatsoever, it may be a very quick process to gather the documents to support your citizenship application. On the contrary, if your documents have a lot of problems, no matter how quickly you gather them, you may have to go through complex amendment processes that take a lot of time, so the preparation of your documents may take time anyway. But anyway, you can try and make the process as quickly as quick as possible and relocate to Italy for some time to do the process there, and subsequently relocate to the other European country where you're interested in living in. Furthermore, of course, because of the current global health situation, although most of the Italian consulates in the US have reopened and they are slowly going back to normal, so there have been some delays because of the situation right now. There are some consulates, for example, New York, that are currently not releasing appointments because of the global emergency. So be sure to check with your local Italian consulate if they're accepting new applicants right now for the time being, or if because of the global situation, the consulate is not accepting even the ability to book an appointment for the time being. So I think it's very important to also understand the current situation of the consulate that covers the place in which you reside, because some consulates are almost back to normal, some consulates are still struggling with the global emergency, and they're slowly going back to, or trying to go back to normal.
Interesting. So it does sound like that even in that situation, all situations sound like coming to Italy does help things to move faster. But
of course,
if a person is wanting to consider relocating to Italy for their process of petitioning for their Italian citizenship by descent, what should they take into consideration? Is there anything that it differs in the process, or differs in the what you have to produce, or how they go about the process, that someone should take into consideration that might mean that maybe America would be the better choice for them, or that Italy would be the better choice for them?
Well, when you apply in Italy, you have to consider that the application will be evaluated by the local municipality. So basically by normally one clerk working in the citizenship office of the municipality. Now, if it's a big municipality, there may be one or more than one person who deal with citizenship applications. They may be familiar with citizenship applications. They may know what they are. But if you're applying in a smaller municipality, say a municipality with 2,000 or 3,000 people, or even 5,000 people, it is very likely that there will be only one clerk working in the citizenship office, or maybe there's no citizenship office, and the clerk who's dealing with applications for Italian citizenship is somebody who also does other things. Right. Maybe it's normally the clerk who works in the Anagrafe and Stato Civile office, so the deals with residents and vital statistics, basically, and also deals with citizenship applications. Now, in those situations, it's possible that the clerk in question doesn't doesn't really know how the process works, or maybe they do. It depends. If they have faced applications for Italian citizenship before, they will know what that is. But let's say it's not very extremely uncommon that you go to the municipality and say, hey, I want to apply for Italian citizenship, but they look at you and like, what is this thing? Like, what are you talking about? And you end up having to explain to them what the situation is. Of course, it's more likely that you face that situation if you're applying by yourself. If you're applying with Italian citizenship assistance or a company, of course, you're going to apply in the town where Italian offices are located, and the clerk there is very familiar with citizenship applications. Now, the bottom line is, if you have a straightforward case, no questions will be asked. Maybe you will have to explain the procedure a little bit to the clerk, but the clerk will basically understand what's going on and how to deal with your citizenship application. But if your application has some peculiarities and special circumstances, it may still be accepted. It may still be like these situations may still be understood by the clerk, but in those complex situations, I want to say that a consular clerk will have a better understanding on how to proceed. Like if you have adoptions or name change decrees or other special circumstances that allow you to qualify for citizenship, a clerk in Italy may not understand those. Clerks in Italy, they're not lawyers, they're not attorneys in most cases. So the municipality may have an attorney inside the municipality that deals with other things and can have a better understanding of the citizenship laws involved. But if it's a smaller municipality, most likely there will not be an attorney in the municipality that can help the citizenship clerk understand your specific case. People at the consulate, so people who work at the consulate, they see very many citizenship applications every year because, especially in the US, there is a very large Italian American community and people apply for Italian citizenship on a regular basis. So even if they are not attorneys themselves, they're very familiar with the laws involved and the procedure, and they are in constant contact with, for example, the Italian Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So it may be easier to explain to them a complex situation. Now, you asked me also what's involved in the application filed in Italy. And of course, it requires that you relocate to Italy. So if you apply in the US through an Italian consulate, you just gather your documents and wait for your appointment at the consulate where during which you submit all your documents. Now with the current situation, you don't even go anymore to the appointment. You present the documents to the consulate through the mail, and then maybe there's a phone interview with the clerk at the consulate. But if you apply in Italy, there will be an in-person appointment. At least that's what happens in our town in Rovigo. But I know a lot of other towns still do the in-person appointments. And you will have to relocate to Italy for some time, become a resident of Italy, and show up in person at the municipality for multiple appointments and formally submit your citizenship application. So it requires a relocation to Italy. It requires that you have an apartment in Italy, a property where you can live, where you can establish your residency, so you can just go on vacation to Italy to file your application. So they're two completely different processes.
So like you mentioned that like just taking a trip to Italy is not enough, but you were saying having a property. This I'm assuming also includes having a rental property.
Rental property, or if you own a property, that's fine too.
That's great. Are there maybe any other points that we haven't gone across that I know that maybe come up for you and your clients that they take into consideration if they're deciding if they want to make their petition in the United States or their home country versus applying in Italy?
Well, those people who decide to file the application in Italy will have the ability to obtain a residency permit valid for the duration of the process. So while they are in Italy, they will have a document that legally allows them to stay in Italy for the duration of the process. But as people who apply in the US through an Italian consulate, they will not be granted such residency permit. So some people ask me, I have filed my application with the Italian consulate in Los Angeles. I'm currently waiting for my application to be processed. Can I relocate to Italy in the meantime? And unfortunately, the answer is no, because your application is being processed by an entity abroad. So you're not entitled by law to that residency permit. You will have to, potentially you could withdraw your application from the Italian consulate and refile the application through an Italian municipality. That way you will be granted a residency permit for people who have filed the application in Italy, but it depends if it makes sense for you. It depends if your application is at an advanced stage. So if it's being processed and it's almost completed, or if you just filed it. So it depends on the specific circumstances.
Interesting. So would it be safe to assume that really once you make the petition, you really don't want to relocate until it's finished, regardless of where you are?
Yes, that is the case. And even if you relocate to another consular jurisdiction, if you were to proceed by the book, you would have to inform the new consulate that covers the jurisdiction in which you relocate, that you relocated there, and formally withdraw the application from your previous consulate and refile it in the new consulate. Some consulates may allow you to maybe skip the queue and get an early appointment, or they may just tell you, look, you have to book an appointment now, and the appointment will be in a number of months from now, and then you can file your application here with us. So it's normally not advisable to withdraw your application if it's being processed by another consulate. It's not advisable to move while the application is being processed. So I think you have to carefully determine before you file the application if you will be living in that jurisdiction long enough for your application to be processed.
So then would it also be safe to say that the same would go for Italy, that you also don't want to move from municipality to municipality? And would you also have to, in that case, restart the process if you were to move to another comune?
Absolutely. So if the requirement, the prerequisite is that you are a resident in that jurisdiction for you to be able to use the office that deals with citizenship within that specific jurisdiction, be it a consulate or a municipality. So if the prerequisite is no longer there, so if you no longer reside within the jurisdiction of that office, you will have to start over in another office located in a new jurisdiction where you relocated. Now, going back, though, to the question that you asked before in terms of what documents are required when you apply in Italy in comparison to an application filed at the consulate. Normally, the consulate requires more documents than what the municipality in Italy requires, because the municipality in Italy strictly applies the laws. So the law says that only the documents for the individuals in your Italian line are necessary: birth certificates, marriage certificates, denaturalization records of your ancestor. The consulate instead will likely require, depending on the consulate, extra documents because they want to be extra cautious that the documents that you're presenting are actually pertaining to the Italian ancestor and your ascendants. So they can better understand that if you also present, for example, death certificates, which are not required by the law, and if you also present the birth and death certificates for the relatives that are not in the Italian line, so the spouses of the individuals in the Italian line. So for instance, if you apply in Italy through your grandfather, you only need your grandfather's birth certificate and marriage record. But if you apply through your grandfather through an Italian consulate in the US, you may be required to also present your grandmother's birth certificate and your grandmother's death certificate, even if she's not in the Italian line, even if she's not of Italian descent. And that's because the consulate wants to be extra cautious, and they want to be sure that your grandfather's birth certificate is actually your grandfather's birth certificate. So they want to check maybe the information on the marriage record to make sure that it matches with your grandmother's birth certificate. The more pieces they have, the more they can be sure that you're not cheating and presenting maybe somebody else's documents. Now, not all the consulates require these extra documents, so you have to be sure that you check the website of your local consulate to see what the requirements are.
Fascinating. Well, I think this actually may be a great place to end off this episode, because this has really been fantastic to go over all of this, fascinating to think about the differences between the two. And I'm sure there'll be people who find this helpful, but who are thinking about, should I do this or should I do that? What's better? How do I go about it?
Yes, and I'm sure people will have a lot of questions regarding the differences between and the pros and cons between applying in Italy and in the US. So maybe we can gather their questions if they have any and do a Q&A episode about the differences between applying in Italy and applying in the US.
That's absolutely a fantastic idea. If you do have any ideas, be sure to leave those down in the comment section below here on YouTube, or if you're listening to the audio only version, feel free to send Italian Citizenship Assistance a message or come over to the YouTube channel, leave the comment over there. But anyway, Marco, thank you so much for making yourself available for this episode. If anybody is wanting that help with going through the process, how can they get in contact with you and your team?
People can contact us through our website, Italiancitizenshipassistance.com, or give us a call. The number is on the website.
Absolutely fantastic. And of course, also, if you're interested in more information about life abroad, living in Italy as an Italian dual citizen in the country that both Marco and I get to call home, be sure to come over to my YouTube channel and audio-only podcast, Not Your Average Globetrotter. You can find it on youtube.com/Rafael Di Furia, or just a quick search for Not Your Average Globetrotter on YouTube or your favorite podcasting platforms of choice. Again, thank you so much, Marco, for making yourself available for this episode. Thank you all so much for joining us. Stay safe and healthy out there, and we'll see you all next time. Later.
Thank you.